worked in a newly built hospital that was haunted. We had lost no patients there, but according to research, a coworker did. The land had been part of a large farm, and where the hospital was located had been where the slave quarters were. I have seen at least two people who were there one minute and gone the next. They looked completely normal until they disappeared. Call buttons and empty rooms would go off. There was a small sitting or waiting room on one floor with a TV and coffee machine. The TV would turn on when no one was there. There was also a misty shape seen in a stock room by multiple people. Different employees sometimes heard faint whispers when no one was there. One girl in housekeeping, she quit because of weird situations. She cleaned the OR rooms at night and had a dedicated equipment cart that was stored inside the OR. She would have to scrub up and dress in scrubs, mask, gloves, shoe, and hair cover to go into the area. She would pull out her cart and go inspect the first room to clean up anything before he took the cart to do the floors. Many times when she would come back to her cart, all her tools would be lined up on the floor beside the cart. This was an area with badge access, so they knew who came in. She also texted me a pic of a powered off computer screen and said she felt like she was being watched. Asked me to put it in my Photoshop program and see if I could see anything. I enlarged and lightened the area, and there were three distinct but faint faces on the screen. She quit soon after. I used to work in a really old Victorian hospital when I was 18 years of age. The staff always talked about the top floor being haunted, but I just thought they were kidding. One night, they were short-staffed, and I was asked to go up and help out. When it was break time, the nurse went on her break first, and I was left on my own to look after the patients who were sleeping. I felt a bit creeped out being on my own, but it was okay. After a while, I was standing watching the patients sleeping, and my shoulder got tapped on. Thinking the nurse was back from her break, I smiled and turned around to say to her, "Wow, that was quick." I turned around and didn't see anyone there. Where did she go? I walked around to see where she had gone, but there was no one. Then I realized that I had been tapped on the shoulder by a ghost. It had felt real. I felt a finger poking my shoulder tip very hard. All the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I got a chill suddenly. Not wanting to panic, I went to sit down at the nurse's station and calm down. After about 10 minutes, the nurse came back from her break, and I smiled and went to go on my own break. "Everything okay?" she asked me. "Yeah, fine," I said. I didn't want to tell her what happened, in case she thought I was crazy. After about a week, I finally told someone what happened to me on the top floor of the hospital. "Oh, that's a ghost up there," I was told. Some people say they see a man in his pajamas when they look in the mirror, but they turn around and no one is there. I worked in a very large hospital that had multiple buildings and big parking lots. Staff had to park in a lot that was a hike at best of times, in bad weather, but at least the buildings were connected to an underground walkway. I started around 7 a.m. and got there really early to avoid commuter traffic, which meant I was usually in the underground walkway alone after 6 a.m. It was for sure over 400 feet long. The hallway had those metal doors at intervals, with push bars and glass that had metal grids in them, like schools had. Many times I'd be there before maintenance staff showed up, who would unlock the doors in the hallway, which meant I'd be blocked from getting to my workspace. I had to wait in the hallway until they made the journey down the hall to unlock the doors. Otherwise, had to go back to the beginning and walk upstairs through the hospital corridors. There were probably connecting ways to get upstairs, but I didn't know how. One time, I was in the underground hallway and walking to my workspace. I noticed a guy a couple of hundred feet in front of me outside a huge white door. I had no idea what this door led to. Hospitals have tons of doors. I'm walking and walking. He's just standing there, facing the other wall. And I'm walking and walking. In a blink of an eye, he was no longer standing there. Right in front of my view, he was gone. Okay, whatever. That was strange. There were no other doors right there he could have ducked into. Finally, I get up to where he was standing and keep going to my desk. Some days or weeks later, it's raining outside, and one of my coworkers comes in wet. I asked her why she didn't take the lower hallway, and she always says she won't walk down there because strange things have happened. I asked for more information, and she says she's worked there for years, and many workers have seen people standing there and then vanish in a blink of an eye outside the door. And I said, "What door? The big white door?" She said, "Yes." She says this is the morgue's door, and she's having none of that after seeing someone blink out of existence as she is walking down that hallway. I casually asked other workers if that was the morgue door, and they all confirmed. I've worked in a fair number of hospitals, and I've heard lots of stories. Unlike the hospital at night, I don't find it to be creepy like most. There was a room that was sometimes used to hold up to 4 patients. This was called a 4-pack. It was always much colder than any other room on that floor. The weird thing is that many times there was only one patient in that room. He would complain in the morning of not getting a good night's sleep because of his neighbor. It was being loud. At first I thought it was the old people being delirious and that there was actually someone in the room overnight. But we verified with the charge nurse the room was empty except for that one patient. And this happened with young and old patients alike. There was also a courtyard that had a playground. Sometimes people would report a little girl playing there at night. And there was one specific ICU room. None of the nurses liked going in there at night alone. And they couldn't leave the patient alone without them crashing. So they'd sit halfway in the doorway. If they left the room, the patient would become unstable and the drips would be changed when they got back